Lori Powers is in the hospital having another blood transfusion, and we'd like to cheer her up a little bit. So if you'd please sign the card as well as the attendance sheet. And also on the minutes, it reminded you that on Sunday, June 14th, we are going to have a reception to honor our former presidents. And the county executive will be there, and probably the mayor, and we want to make sure that all of you attend. And I will be calling a meeting of the people who are going to be working on the reception very shortly. Is there any other business that needs to come before us? Do you want to say anything?
Last Tuesday night, the City Council, Erin, Board of Aldermen and Mayor, voted unanimously to give us space in what used to be the library area. Now, all of the details haven't been worked out, but they did pass it unanimously. There will be an engineer that will draw up the specs, and the city will have to put it out to a bid, but then, of course, we'll share our portion of the expense. And so I really don't have a great deal of detail, but they were very pleased, and some of the city aldermen have seen me since just around town, and we're very pleased that it worked out for us. And so as we gain further information, well, we'll share it with you, but just want to give you a progress report.
We want to thank Harper for all the work he's done. I think he's worked a little bit overboard for us, and we're lucky to have it. If any of you have a nice, lovely building you'd like to donate, I was talking to Dr. Luton a little while ago, and it'd be nice if we could have a building of our own sometime, or a nice home. So just keep it in mind. If you hear of one, we'd love to have it, but at least we have a start now. Harper, I think we're ready to have you introduced.
In Houston County since 1930, and we'll be looking forward to that. And I know no one who is better informed or had a greater share in some of this history, and so we'll tell them we're looking forward to that. And we'll see that in May. Most of you know that when someone introduces the President of the United States, it's inappropriate to say anything other than that. Just say, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the President of the United States. In Houston County and Erin, it's not inappropriate just to say, I give you Dr. O.S. Luton. The only reason I'm not going to do that is because, as you know, we are making videotapes of our meetings as well as other historical events in the area, and whereas that would be appropriate for us, yet possibly 10, 20, 30 years from now, when someone views this film, they might say, well, who is Dr. O.S. Luton? And you won't know a great deal more after I've finished, but between him and me, hopefully you will know about this gentleman who has meant a very great deal to our community. Dr. Luton was born in Stewart County, between Bumpus Mills and Dover. However, in think of interest, in 1898, his father came over into Houston County to attend the Macaulay's Academy. I don't know whether any of you were here at that time, but you probably heard this particular academic institution mentioned. Dr. Luton himself attended Vanderbilt University for his undergraduate work, and then went on to the University of Tennessee at Memphis, the school where doctors are trained, for his medical training. He moved to Houston County professionally in 1954, coming directly out of a number of military assignments, and he came at the invitation of Dr. Troy A. Walker. Dr. Walker, some of you will remember, was married to Dorothy Griffin. Dr. Luton today is specifically going to talk to us about the development of the Irish Week concept, the Irish Parade, and these types of things. He also while he was here as a doctor in our community. He helped to establish the Hillcrest Clinic, and of course did other very valuable medical made medical contributions to the community. He's now living in Clarksville, and he is doing just an unbelievable number of interesting things: psychological services, drug and alcoholic abuse prevention. He works with the people at Fort Campbell. In his spare time, he goes to South America and the Caribbean area and various places, doing volunteer medical work among the disadvantaged people. So he's a very busy man, and I am sure that we feel very honored that he would come and share with us today. And so Dr. Luton, come up. Now, I will tell you, he's well informed. This is the first half of his speech in this folder, and then when he gets through with that, after a few questions, he'll finish over here.
Thank you very much, Doctor.
So nice to have you with us, and if you'll stand so that your voice will go through the mic here, someday somebody will be able to hear your melodious voice.
I'm noted for roving, and I feel rather and so forth. But I'm really humbled that you asked me to come back and share with you all all the excitement that we really had in the community when we were coming up with some ideas of what we could do to help the community in its esteem and create goodwill among ourselves and be happy and joyous and all come together in a common cause. And I think it's out of that idea that all of us, I see Wes Flugas here, and of course Sarah Hart, Lorraine Robbins here, and Mary Evelyn, and it's just all of you, and Miss Ruth Mitchum. So many of you were part of this idea that really became structured in a way with committees named. And I was just looking through the first official program, and it's delightful reading that Mary Catherine Pratt, and I don't know whether you noticed, Lorraine, or not, but they made a typographical error on Mary Kay's name, and they said Mary Catherine Rat. They left. And we hold Mary Catherine in high esteem because of her contribution in making this booklet available, of this historical things. And it's interesting for you to read. If you're not familiar with Houston County, this will bring you up to date. So I invite you to sometimes sign this book out and read this history that she has composed so well for us. And it was that after getting all the program developed and so forth, that we dedicated the first one to our friend Miss Lucille Christensen Clement, and so that was the first official booklet. It sold for 50 cents, but it was really a lot of fun and of doing this sort of thing. And I think maybe if I regressed a little bit and say how I came to Houston County was probably the part of the motivating reason for me to get interested in the wearing of the green. Some of you may or may not know, but I spent the first year at Vanderbilt. I wasn't sure whether I was going to be a Methodist minister or whether I was going to be a doctor. And after I passed the first year, the Lord put words in my something and gave me a sense of, look, you can make it to be a doctor, because I wasn't sure I could pass with pre-med grades that I could get in medical school. But anyway, after the first year, I found out I could, and competing with all the valedictorians and salutatorians that came into Vanderbilt along with those old veterans back in there. I had been in school for 3 years and trying to catch up with algebra and some of the other things that was required of us. But anyway, it was a very difficult time. But after I did get through the first year, I was moved into the idea of the field of medicine, and from there I continued into progression. But upon completion of my military training, after the medical work, Vonnie, my wife, and I were interested in medical missionary work as a Christian missionary. Well, Vonnie had got involved with an illness. At that time, they thought she had tuberculosis. Now, some of you may not know this, but anyway, for a year, while I was in pre-med at Vanderbilt, Vonnie stayed in the bed, recuperating from what they believed to be tuberculosis. It turned out, however, that she's never had the tuberculosis. It was probably histoplasmosis, which is from the bird droppings disease. Some of you know, familiar with histoplasmosis, and can mimic tuberculosis. But anyway, she was completely healed and no further problem. But because of that problem, we elected not to get into the foreign mission field, but to come into a small community. So it was from that motivation that we wrote the Tennessee State Medical Society and said we would like to be of service in a small community where they might need a physician. Well, Dr. Edkins was here at that time, and Dr. Troy Walker was here. Well, I didn't get a letter per se from the Tennessee Medical Society, except the letter that Troy Walker had written in handwriting asking them to see if they could help find a doctor to come in and help him or take his place because he wanted to move to Clarksville. Well, so I got in contact with Troy Walker, and it was interesting about Troy, and some of you may know this, but I had a cousin who was in medical school with Troy over at the University of Arkansas. And his daddy kept wondering how my cousin got through in 4 years, and it took 12 so for Troy to get through. But I don't know where it took 12 years for Troy to get through it. But anyway, he was playing around in school, and he ended up staying. But anyway, so I known of Troy all my life. So anyway, it was nice that we could come to some agreement. So I came in to work with him, and after that period of time, about a year or so, he wanted to move over to Clarksville, and I sort of bought him out at the clinic. And so here again, we felt, Vaughn and I felt that we were making some contribution in a community that needed our services, that we'd do the best we could with what we had and so forth. And so that was the joy with which we came here. And as you know, I lived in one of Chick Rice's houses, not up the hollow, but up on the hill. So you know where Chick's places were. But anyway, it's up on the hill here. And we stayed up there until we could get our house built up on the hill. And I remember Frank Lloyd Wright said, if you want to build a house where nobody else will build one. So Carlisle Mitchum owned the place up there where the house is now, and sawbriars and sumac bushes, and the rabbits had to get on a rock and look up to see where they could go because the stuff was so thick there. But anyway, we went up there and built that house. So we had a great time. But anyway, we kept thinking, what could we do in the community, as well as within the church and the school and so forth, that we could make a place not only for ourselves but help other people where our children could grow up and go to school and so forth. So we were sort of searched ourselves and dreamed a lot of things, what we could do. And then under the leadership of J.D. Lewis, who was the conservation, or the, was that the right word for it, the farm extension agent or something? County agent. He was always working it through the Chamber of Commerce sessions and so forth, and trying to inspire us to do something in the community and work and so forth, and get together. And so this idea of Erin came up because through the exchange of all the chamber the chamber members, and it's interesting that there is, I believe Mary Catherine has gotten, looks like the working committees, the movers, and the membership at large that was in the Chamber of Commerce. But and Sarah Hart is listed at the top, and it was with Sarah's motivation because she was politically oriented at that time and could have access to Senator Gore and to Ross Bass, of the representatives and so forth. So we said, look, this would be a good way if we could get these people to come back and just start to inspire us, as well as Frank Clement, who was as governor at that time. And by nominating or naming Miss Lucille, who was born and reared here, as the first dedicated, we didn't call the Lord High Mayor at that time, but we just dedicated the program to her. And it was through that we, I have turned my files over to somebody down here, and I thought it was probably at the library, but it's not here. But we generated letters to the president, to every person we thought we could get to come down here, basically to draw attention, get the crowd's attention and so forth, and come to see. And as I told Harper, it was not necessarily that we expected those people to come, but that we wanted to use their letters of reply as a source of inspiration, that these people had at least knew where Erin, Tennessee was. So as you know, so many people think that we are from East Tennessee. I said, no, that's Irwin. That has a W in it. And ours is just Erin, Tennessee. And if you remember, Erin is the word in the English, the grammar phrase of Tilden, it's a possessive form of Erie, E-R-I-E, meaning Erin, and that's how how it was so named. So, but anyway, that gives you sort of a background of what I was interested in, that we worked with the community to do everything we could as one person working with, if you'll see on the working committees, on the Chamber of Commerce directors, of course, here again, Wes Pfluger was the secretary at that time, with Lori Hart, Mary Linton, who was a public health nurse, Arthur Marable, Ralph Lynn, Bill Neighbors, and M.M. Stockard, and Webb Mitchum. These were the directors. And the grounds committee, whether it was Tom Brewer was chairman, Bill Neighbors, Rodney Lowry, Clarence Artist, the sheriff, Rusty Simpson, Herman Robbins, and Bob Garrett. And the parade marshal at that time was Sammy Smith Jr., who married, Miss Beard. What's her first name? Golda Beard, yes. And Jim Ballou, who was the forester at that time, and here Captain Jack Hart was part of the parade marshal, and Billy Alsabrooks. Then under decorations, we had Beverly Price was chairman. The idea was the more people we could get involved with job assignments, we felt like the greater success we'd have, because at least you'd have a crowd if you just got the committees here, see? So that was sort of the object behind this. So under entertainment, we had Bob Shores was chairman with Dot Pfluger and Jerry Lynch, who was preacher at the Presbyterian Church, Jeanette Spencer and Lucille Mobley. The tickets, Miss Sarah Hart was in charge of that program, and the purchasing was under Webb Mitchum with Larry Hart and Ken Cross, who was with Southern Gage at that time. And the registration for the committees was Miss Eve McKinnon, and the project officers were Bill Simpson and Shirley McMillan. And under advertising was B. Brewer, Mary Litton, Bill Simpson, Billy Skelton, Bill Cleggard, and Wes Pfluger. Under history, Mary Kate Pratt, and Bill Neighbors and Norma Neighbors. And in finance, we had Wes Pfluger was chairman, O.C. Presley, and Dr. Mitchum, Al Mitchum, and Bill Simpson. Invitations were Ruth Mitchum, chairman, and Jeanette Spencer and Sarah Hart. Now, Miss Ruth signed a lot of these letters that went out because she was secretary, see, and for the invitations. And so we had replies to Miss Ruth and so forth because of the letters that emanated over her signature. Under the arrangements for food was Marshall Alsabrooks and Miss Olive Avert and Louise Parchman and Rosabelle Bennett. Under traffic control was Clarence Artist, who was the sheriff at that time, who was chairman, along with Jim Kirkendall, who was the highway patrolman. Under the presentation of the leprechauns was Gladys Hunter, the chairman, and we called them movers. From here again, we were trying to get as many people involved. We had the Rotary Club, Homer Thomas, Ralph Lynn, Jim Davis, City of Erin, Bob Garrett, Nelma Dixon, Civitan, Bob Mitchell, and Bill Cleggard. FFA was Tom Brewer. 4-H was J.D. Lewis. Home Demonstration was Louise Parchman. City of Tennessee Ridge, Arthur Reynolds. American Legion, Rodney Lowry. Girl Scouts, Bonnie Luton, my wife. And Boy Scouts, Beverly Price. With all the community churches participating. But the thing is, they left out all the Masonic bodies that were very influential and entertaining at the time. But we would find out things that we omitted, and next year we would try to incorporate those people into the activities. Here again, but the idea is that the more people we could get involved, the happier everybody would be. So really, one of the ideas that we felt like, it being a Christian community, was the parade, for example, whenever it started, would be energized with the ringing of the church bells. We thought this would be fitting because here again it's based on the idea of with St. Patrick having been a good person and quote drove the snakes out of Erin. But anyway, we felt like that it was very fitting that the Christian community should be recognized by the church bells ringing. And for years and years it's went on. I don't know whether they still do that or not. I was here this year, but I understand it was one of the largest celebrations that you encountered. But we had a great deal of fun doing this, and every year we try to figure out what we didn't do last year we need to do this year. And the thing that we had the greatest problem with was the weather. And, we could never tell what was going to happen. I was just trying to find out the couple's name that worked with, he worked with Southern Gage, and his wife was from Hesper, Ontario, Canada, and they were aware of the children who were the Scottish band, and they had the pipes and so forth. And they came down here with the pipe band and had really had a good time with us. And there must have been 30 children, and what they had done was sold chocolate bars to make money to come down to our celebration. And they had, of course, as you know, the ones who were here they rented the bus and came down here, and the kids were farmed out in the community. I remember we kept 4 of them. So we've just had lots of fun during the time I was here, and which carried through 71 when we moved in 72. But anyway, the Irish celebration was one thing we felt like with everybody working, the schools, the civic and fraternal organizations and so forth could get together, it would be a great joy, and everybody have fun doing it. Of course, I told Wes at Rotary, or mentioned at Rotary Club, it's according to which one of us, whether they were complaining or being happy about it, whichever one took the credit for having been so influential in trying to get it started. But the community esteem, to me, was one of the greatest things and continues to be exemplified. For example, in this last celebration, I hear people every day talk about the Erin celebration, and the wearing of the green has been one of the nicest. It was the nicest this year because the weather seemingly stormy, blustery one day. That Saturday the weather got beautiful. The next day it was blustery and bad again, as if the Lord looked down with blessing upon the community and sort of opened up and let the sunshine in, even though I would say it was cold. I would regret that I wasn't able to be here because I've been in Florida, was coming back and had spent the weekend in Atlanta. But the wearing of the green certainly was a community experience that made people think in a common interest for the betterment of the community. And I certainly think that you have done wonderfully well in working with all these groups and with all the people, and certainly everybody. You can't really single out any particular person. Everybody makes a contribution to the celebration, in my opinion. And that's what the real secret of it is, that everybody does something and makes some contribution to having a good community esteem. And I think it's just, incidentally, as you know, if you remember, we used to have appearances at the noon show, which was with Judd Collins on Channel 4, and with Dave Overton, who had the Waking Crew on WSM. It started at 5:30 or 6, something like they do now. But anyway, we were there, and they'd give us time, and they would look forward to our coming, or some representatives from our city to come there and tell their listening audience about Erin's celebration of St. Patrick's Day. So through this, that Dr. Frist and the workers, Mr. Jack Massey and Tommy Frist and 2, 3 others, I can't think of, Mr. Brewer. But anyway, they came down here and said that Dr. Al and I had tried to raise enough money for a hospital. We had projected with the architect that we needed $750,000 to build a hospital, because Dr. Al and I wanted to do that for the community and just make our work arrangements much easier for us even. Well, when they let the contract for us to build a hospital, the lowest bid was $100,000, $850,000, and we just felt like we really couldn't get that. You know, here again, people had said, look, they'd buy bonds, they were going to do all this to invest in the community. So Dr. Frist and them heard of that through my friend Dr. Bill Sheridan, who's now a psychiatrist, William Sheridan. He and I were going into the residency of psychiatry. I was planning a midlife change because I'd been reading about this midlife change stuff a long time, and I thought, well, when I get 45 and 50, I'm going to plan midlife change. So I'm going to plan something. I'm not going to let it just happen to me. So I was going to go in psychiatry, and I had signed up to leave to go after we couldn't get the hospital like we wanted with Dr. Orr at Vanderbilt. And on the 31st of May, I was going to give my final commitment that I would be there the first day of July. On the 24th of May, somebody at the front office says, "You've got somebody out to see you," and it's and they said, I said, "Who in the world is?" They said, "Well, they said it's Dr. Frist and it's Dr. Jack Massey, Mr. Jack Massey, and those people from HCA had come down and wanted to build their first hospital here." Well, you talk about things changing so fast. I couldn't believe this. Number one, it was sort of a disbelief experience for us that they wanted to come and build the first hospital in Erin. As you know, they acquired Parkview. They acquired Lewis Hospital, the Lewis Hospital, I believe they call it Pulaski. But Erin Trinity Hospital was the first hospital that Hospital Corporation of America built. Erin was really honored that they decided to do this, and they said because of the community interest through the Irish celebration of the wearing of the green, they wanted to make a contribution to the community. And so that just made more things happened. But in the meantime, I began to go through another change. I've been through a lot of changes in my life. But anyway, I went through another change here again and called Dr. Orr and says, look, they go to the hospital down here and I can't leave. I'm going to stay with them until we get this thing going good. So that Irish celebration really could be a great contributing factor why you have now the great, I call it Trinity Hospital and the outpatient department, as well as probably the Royal Care Nursing Home, which I'm telling you is among the nicest in the state of Tennessee. All because of the communities working together, doing things, and they felt like they could invest their money here. And as you know, there's another nursing home out at Green Hills that came and liked this nursing home so well, they patterned after it and they built one. That's near where the teachers' union used to be out there at the Green Hills. But anyway, I was in the military reserves at this time with General George Cate, Jr., who used to be Vice Mayor of Erin. But anyway, George was the lawyer, the attorney that represented this organization who came and really got the permission to copy the Royal Care Nursing Home so they could build the same one in Nashville. And all as a result of the communities working together and the celebration of seeing what a community working together and the strength there could really do. And here again, the Masons have become so well, actually, they did a great job in helping us because they would entertain the Shriners who'd come and be a part. And sometimes we think the Shriners are going to be the only one here to ride their little machines and so forth. But anyway, it's just grown, and I'm so happy that Erin and Houston County continue to allow this celebration to occur and then work so hard to keep it going because I think it strengthens the self-esteem or the community esteem and makes, I'm delighted to say I have been from Erin, Tennessee, and I still call it home because I had lived here longer than I had lived in my home place where I grew up down in Stewart County on the river. Incidentally, that I was among those people in progressive education. There were two teacher school, and of course the first four grades in one room, and the fifth through the eighth and second room. But I was always doing the recitations when I was in the fifth and sixth grade. The seventh and eighth graders, I was still learning what they were doing. So I call it progressive education at that time. But anyway, it's been a delightful experience to have been in Erin and to see what you're doing still. And I compliment you as a historical society. And I was just talking that hopefully that you somewhere, someplace will be a museum in this county to reflect all the little things that have been done within the community by what people have done, what people have made. For example, I don't know where the old generator was from the waterworks that used to put your first electrical system here. But when Mr. Kilowatt Stone, as everybody knows Kilowatt Stone, you know, he started it. But who else was with him at that time that did that? Anybody remember? Mary Evelyn, does it come to you?
No.
But who was it, Mary?
Mr. Marable.
Mr. Marable?
One of the Marables.
Okay, Ed Steady? Mr. Bates, Mr. Bates started the telephone, but anyway, the interesting, for example, to find somebody who had one of the old telephones, anything that could have some of the old light fixtures that were used here that were during that time, and just basically, and I'm sure that maybe we could find one of those fellows over there that had one of those little water cooler put engines, you know, that they come to have at the celebration. Anything that will portray to the younger generation what has gone on before. That they might, here again, that history would not have to repeat itself, so to speak, that they would learn from it. And I congratulate you folks for being the Historical Society and making your contribution to this area, because I think it's through you that there's strength now. And I was just saying that through your representative, there may be some money available through a grant that would help you establish a museum here, but it just would take some calling and so forth, and making a petition saying, look, we need somebody now. We're trying to establish a museum in Houston County. Find some of the old quarry stones or something. That, incidentally, you know, I don't know whether, is the rock still over here on the square? Well, that was, we went over there in the rock quarry, and we found this stone with the beautiful little colorations in it and so forth. So we thought, well, look, let's just call it the Blarney stone. So I can't remember whether Carlisle or who was that brought that thing. Wes, you remember who brought it to me? Carlisle. But so really, we thought of not just dumping it on the lawn, but you know, making some sort of big walk around it and so forth, and have people really wanting to kiss the stone and all that sort of thing. But it never has been moved from where it is. But anyway, that was crazy. The thought of that was a Blarney Stone effect. If you've ever been to Blarney, Ireland, and kiss the Blarney Stone, what you got to do is get down on your back and go up under the rocks up here. You got to kiss up. I liked it when I got up and I did that, but so we wasn't running fanfare like that, a kiss to the Blarney Stone. But anyway, that's where the rock on the lawn is, where it's the symbolism of the Blarney Stone from Ireland. Let me just stop now and let you ask me questions. If you have questions. Maybe I've covered all day. Oh, he and Mr. Stone. Oh, that's fine. But I've heard about this. And of course, I said, "Tell me why Mayor Stone is called Kilowatt." And they said, "Well, another interesting story. I came here when I first came. Of course, I wasn't busy, and Dr. Walker said, "Well, why don't you go downtown and just meet people because you don't have anybody to see this afternoon?" I went down there. So I came upon this fellow. He had really been working hard. He'd been through the hog pen and everything, and he hadn't shaved in 3 or 4 days, and Ambeer was down, and then I was almost cautious whether I should speak or not. But anyway, I went up to him and I told him, "I'm Dr. Luton. I'm moving in the community. I've moved in the community here, and I'm going to help." And he says, "I need a quarter for a cup of coffee." And I began to fiddle around in my pocket, and I was about to give him what I had. I had my mustering out pay. I think that's all I had. But anyway, I started to give to him. He says, "I don't want your money." He says, "I own that bank over there." It's Mr. Jim Carey. So it prompted me to never neglect to charge somebody when they came to my office. If you couldn't pay, I'd still charge you because they'd get them looking at you whether you had money or not. But Mr. Carey really took me on. He says, "I just want to know what kind of man you were." I hope you found out, like that, what I said to him. But anyway, interesting. Had a lot of interesting things that have gone on here in the community, and I look back, and it's really a great inspiration for me and a joy. And I was just telling Harper at Rotary that Margie Smith, whom you all know, she helped me, of course, with Sally Bowles at one time helped. Had some other lady, who was that lady, of course. But anyway, we delivered about 3,000 babies here. And during the time I was here, of course, to see those youngsters now growing up, and of course they're having babies and so forth. But I remember a remark that during the Chamber of Commerce meetings that we'd have, and I'm regressing a little bit from the Irish celebration, but Mr. Wiseman got up and made an announcement. Since Dr. Luton had been here, we've been having lots more babies, and I made it very clear to him that I thought it was in the water, not just because I was here. But anyway, what he was implying was that he was a county registrar, and the births, if they happened someplace else, well, they were not registered here. But since we were delivering the babies that were registered here, naturally it was showing up to Houston County. There were a lot more babies being born than I was. Oh. It might incite a question or something from you. Yeah. It's a real joy to come down here and share with you all. I say it's like coming home again, and I love it.
So you mentioned Mr. Carey. Are there any other personalities in the earlier days that we ought to know about?
Well, it's some that I cannot tell you about. But the Confidentiality Act precludes my mentioning it. But anyway, listen, Houston County is full of interesting people, believe me. And I think I was mentioning to you that Tilden's mother and daddy were among my patients when I came here. And the home place that burned Tilden, after they had gone, of course, wasn't it? But and of course Ewan's family back there, George Houston's family, Junior's family, Eldridge's family. Everybody just brings back memories to me. Lorraine's Mr. Sidney Boone was one of my. I would say he was a mentor for me because I always had some words of wisdom that I could rely on. And same with Mr. Wiseman and the other people that were here, Mr. Dixon, Sarah's daddy, and of course Carlisle Mitchum, and I could just go on and on of people who really inspired me, and my family. Of course, we have 3 children. Diane, whom you remember, she is an ordained Methodist minister who's pastoring the West Nashville Methodist Church, and she and her husband Jeff have 2 sons. And then we have Beth, that you remember. She has 3 little boys. she's a diaconal minister at the Briarcliff United Methodist Church in Tucker, Georgia. And then I have her son Ken, whom y'all remember or may remember. He's a broker. And I used to laugh and say that we were very fortunate in my family. We had one to help us with our souls, and Beth, because Diane was in political science and religion, and Beth had got her master's in recreation, that Beth could help us play. We had one in religion help us with our souls, and one help us play, and if we ever made any money, Ken being a broker, we might try to. So then it turned out that Beth marries a lawyer, and so that helped me out, and Diane's husband is a social worker, and he could help us out. So we've been very fortunate, and we're very thankful that Erin helped us have our children here and let them grow up here in Houston. Yeah. And I was just remarking also to Harper that during the Macaulay Academy experience with my dad and his brother, 1898, they got word that the Spanish-American War was asking for volunteers. They both left the academy, and by the time they got to wherever they was going to sign up, the war got over, and they never came back. But my dad was studying to be a dentist through the apprentice program, and but anyway, during the time that they were here, who was the fellow that built the Methodist Church? Was it Mr. Christensen? Was it Nelson Steady? Nelson Steady, George Houston? Well, anyway, they invited Mr. Macaulay's students to come down and put their names in the cornerstone. So, and my daddy and his brother Jim were, my daddy George and his brother Jim were among the students that came and put their name in the cornerstone at the northeast section of the old United Methodist Church. I don't know where it's been built onto now. I don't know where anybody knows where the cornerstone is, but. Anyway, so it was really strange to me to find this out many years after I'd been in Erin, that I knew this, that my daddy had come here first, and spent time in the learning sessions. And there's pictures of here again, part of the museum that involved the Macaulay Academy, which looked like a schoolhouse or meeting house sort of thing, more than it did like a school. But I remember they stayed in the dormitory, where there was a dormitory associated with the school. And I've heard my daddy talk about some of the freakish things that the kids were doing then, just like they do now, within their realms, but they didn't have televisions and radios and automobiles, but they had the horses. So I invite you to read, if you have a chance, to read Mary Catherine's writing in Leicester. She left a memory of her when she wrote this. And I'd like to sort of close by reading what she says. 63. Plan a spring vacation to attend next year's St. Patrick's Day and homecoming in '64. Join the incessant spate of talk, all of it delightful, some witty, immediately impressive, and just plain folksy, reminding one of the story about the barrister who went to console a dear widow of an errand friend. After speaking for an hour without a break, not even giving her a chance to even sigh, and then coming out with the remark, "A nice chatty little lady." Enjoy where time is not a tyrant, where no true son would be found guilty of rushing to keep an appointment, who is never in too great a hurry to stop and enjoy half an hour's street-side conversation. Listen to church bells ring, singing of Irish eyes are smiling, and until then, remember, as do the Irish, that God's angels watch not only over the souls of men, but also over every blade of grass and all things that show his glory. We thank you.
Well, we thank you very much. I think maybe you wouldn't mind signing our attendance register.
Oh, I'd be honored.
And would you sign the card for Miss Laura?
Oh, yes, sure.
And if anybody else didn't sign the attendance register, it'll be here on the table. Is there anything else to come before the meeting? Harper?
Charles Lovelady has been a member of this group, I think, from beginning, haven't you? You're not Charles? Not hardly, but he served as secretary one time. But he has brought us a box of the files of the Hornberger Journal that he and his family have produced, and something very important about the history in this particular area And Charles, we want you to know we really appreciate that. Something we can have, and now that we're soon going to have a room, we'll have some place to put these kinds of things. And as Dr. Luton has indicated, I think this is going to, eventually having a room of our own is going to give us an opportunity to gather a number of things that we haven't really had any place to put them up until now.
This will be our first actual donation, but the Masonic Order has also indicated that they have a couple of things that they would like to give us when we have a secure place to put them. So we have it now finally. Okay, we thank you.
Do you want to take a picture of the group before? We'd like to have a, Russell's going to get up here and take a picture of the group now so we can identify 20 years from now who was assisting at the meeting.
Put on your best smile. It's going to be nice to have a room to store things like this.
Y'all can cheer up and be happy.
Well, you need to be in it.
Well, no, I've been on long enough that you was hot with me.
He's getting you in.
He's getting you anyway. Come on.
Get in there.
Dr. Luton, I think it's nice that you referred earlier in your talk to the fact that we had a St. Patrick, and you know the parade was based on that.
Yeah.
And in our congregation today, we have our own Houston County St. Patrick, Whitby.
Oh, yes, this year it is.
You've been St. Patrick for a number of years.
6 years now.
6 years now.
I came down here, I've been to St. Patrick in Chicago parade once, and I came down here retired, and I thought, well, what's your Christmas parade always has a Santa Claus? I think a St. Patrick's Day parade should have a St. Patrick.
Yeah.
So, the young made my costume for me, and I've been doing it ever since. It's a lot of fun.
Yes. I think that's nice that for this particular program,